moon.
Hello there, welcome to That's No Moon Hobby Talk. This week I'm joined with a different guest. As per, it'd be boring if I have the same guest over and over again. A bit like a podcast, really, but who knows? Anyway, this time, joined by Mr. You may know him as Crafty Terrain on YouTube or Crafty Terrain on Facebook and Instagram, but I know him as Mr. Lee Macken. How you doing, Lee?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having us on.
No, you're pleasure to have you on. For those of you who aren't listeners, who are listeners from a foreign land, if you've ever watched Peaky Blinders, this man is from where that is set, and you may be sitting there going, "That doesn't sound like Tommy Shelby," but yeah, same place. And so that's a genuine whereabouts in the West Midlands, shall we say?
Birmingham.
Genuine Brummie accent going on
Yeah,
there.
the silky, smooth Brummie accent.
just got no hat on. That's all. There we go. And yeah, but if he comes at you with a peak cap, just stop. Just edge back way slightly. How you going? Anyway, we're here to talk models and terrain and general hobby chat, of which you are somewhat of an expert on at the moment. Tell us a bit about what's your name? To quote Cilla, what's your name? Where'd you come from? All that sort of jazz.
So, been playing Legion since like 2019, back end, and then basically took up the game and then just decided to just build it into a YouTube channel as well, like making terrain, filming battle reports and stuff like that. I had to have like a knee surgery, so I knew I was going to have some free time and be stuck in the house. So I wanted to fill the time and not get bored and sort of thing. That's how the channel was born, and it's kept me busy ever since.
What was the knee surgery for, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I had ACL surgery.
So. Is that from a sports injury?
I used to play American football. I used to. I don't play no more because of that reason, basically. But...
Now I'm trying to picture what position you might play. I don't think you've been wide receiver. I'm going to go maybe you were some form of linebacker.
I started off as an outside linebacker, finished as a defensive lineman, defensive end. It's smaller than the American. Obviously, this country, it's amateur. It's not professional. So it's a lot smaller.
The potential for some of our American audience sitting there going, "You don't look like a linebacker to me."
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But we have good fundamentals. That's how it works. Yeah. Well, yeah. So you started doing that when you had the ACL surgery, and then moving into that stuff. Did you play any other games as well?
Over the years, I've played lots of different games. So I started off in 40k when I was like, I don't know, probably about 10 to 12, something like that. Had some Ultramarines, completely butchered the paint jobs. Yeah, yellow over blue just never looks good, that sort of thing.
I say again, anyone who can paint yellow got my respect. It's a colour I'll just stay away from, really.
Yeah, it's a difficult colour to paint, especially when there's dark colours and stuff like that around. It's never, it's hard to correct any mistakes that you make and stuff. So, yeah, they didn't look the best, but I enjoyed that. I never really learned to play the game properly, just here and there with a few friends. And then didn't do any miniature gaming for a while, but played a lot of board games and stuff through my teens and computer games and stuff like that. And then when Games Workshop launched their Lord of the Rings, their Middle Earth series now, what it is, got into that. So I was a big fan of Lord of the Rings, as you can probably tell through some of the canvases and stuff behind me. Yeah, and that basically got me back into miniature gaming, painted lots of different armies and just had a lot of fun in our like late teens, early 20s playing that game and stuff. Yeah, that's sort of then, as I said, then I was playing sport, doing other things as you do, and then came back into miniature gaming with Legion.
Do you feel like me? You fall into that little Venn diagram of, yeah, have you got your sports fan there, your geekery dom there, and there's something else there, and you're that one or very few people in that little Venn diagram bit in the middle.
Yeah,
he says currently wearing a football shirt as well.
Yeah, it's something like that.
I'm fully wearing that feeling, mate.
Yeah, always had an itch for like strategy games and that sort of thing. I've always enjoyed like turn-based games and stuff like that. And I think in a sense, that's what drew me to American football. It's almost like turn-based, the offense to defense.
You know
they both take it in turns to play plays. It is almost like a strategy game. In a sense.
If only someone made a game called Blood Bowl. I mean,
well, there you go. Yeah,
exactly. It's the same. Yeah, but you're 100% right, because there is your your turn on the defense, turn on the offense, and obviously the turn is extended if you make your fall down, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and
yeah,
then when I stumbled into Legion, and then that was turn based, and I really just liked how you go with one unit, and then your opponent goes with one unit. I really like that compared to how like 40k and just like you go sort of like everything, and then they go. So I really enjoyed that side of the game, and just fell in love with it really.
yeah, that's I think that's what draws a lot of people onto it because the alternate activation stuff. But the burning question is, do you consider yourself a painter slash hobbyist? I'm going to put that painter, hobbyist, or gamer first.
I'm going to say gamer. I'm going to say gamer first because I think without the gaming, I wouldn't have the motivation to do the other stuff, if that makes sense.
Very fair answer.
I like the creative side of it. It's nice when you finish a piece, whether it be terrain or a mini, and you look at it and you think, I've done that and that looks pretty good. I like that side of it. But without a table to put it on at the end and play with, I just don't think I'd have the motivation.
So you've set up a nice segue here because normally this is where you. Not my next question would be something about remembering models, but when did you go from painting models to going, I'm going to make some terrain for my models to go on? When did you start going, yeah, I'll have a crack?
So when we was playing Lord of the Rings, we didn't want to keep traveling into like Games Workshop to play and stuff. So like we had our own little play group, like my cousin, brother, and stuff like that. And so we just said we'll start having a little go at making terrain. And I mean, it was very, very basic. I mean, take a rock out of a garden and put some green flock on the top of it and put it on the table, which is literally like what we did. We got some twigs and sticks and stuff like that. Used polystyrene for certain like castles and things like that. So that was how I first started. But then when we came back to the channel and recording, obviously you can't just play on the same table week in, week out. That's going to be very boring for the viewers if we're just on one table. So I had to like push myself to make tables. And, you know, well, luckily we was locked down at the time, so I wasn't at work. I had lots and lots of free time because and I just made probably 6 tables in the space of like 7 months, something like that. I was literally, because it was a nice warm summer. I was just outside building terrain.
The summer of the COVID
Yeah,
summer.
it was the COVID summer. It was red hot, like literally barbecuing and building terrain. It was like
Cool,
a
what a
perfect
combo.
summer.
Love it.
Yeah, that's what's there. And drinking quite a lot of beer, if I'm honest. But but that's it, and that's what I did. I was painting miniatures on the night and building terrain in the day, and I knocked out 6 tables in 6 months. And to be fair, like 4 of them are real nice. 2 of them I'm probably not as keen on anymore and stuff. But you know, but I'm happy with it.
What I'm just having to rephrase this a second. When you made your tables, was it a case of everything once you'd done one, you went, right, I'll do something else now? Or did you go, how can I do that but better each time? Or what was there, or did you have say, I want to make a snowy one, I'm gonna make a grass one, I'm gonna make a blue one, I'm gonna make a what was your thinking?
Pretty much. I wanted to try and hit all the like classic like Star Wars planets, so like snow for Hoth, desert for Tatooine, stuff like that, Endor. So I was just moving through. But what I did to keep it interesting with each one, I tried to pick a different like material or technique of terrain just to challenge myself and keep it interesting. So my Hoth table, for example, I did the snows all like the baking powder, white paint, varnish, mix, that sort of thing. So literally I bought like, I don't know, 2 kilo of like baking powder and just made like this snow. And then for the Tatooine one, I used like cork bark for all the rocks and put all that together. For the Geonosis one, I used wall filler. So I just tried to do different things basically with each one to keep it a bit fresh for myself, and then to see like what techniques look the best, what works the best, what's the cheapest, because some things are more expensive than others and stuff like that. So, and that was my approach really.
And what's really cool is that due to the magical skill of video editors, that hopefully, as each table you said there, our wonderful editor Tom, I called you wonderful Tom, remember that. We'll put the pictures up of each one that you said, so hopefully people will see that one.
Sure. Yeah, also, sorry, yeah, and also I'm bringing 2 of our tables to Milton Keynes on the weekend as well, so people can have a look and some people will get the pleasure of playing on them, hopefully.
So I think this will drop after MKGT, but hopefully you will have seen the tables, everyone who's on the play or played on. I hope to basically wangle and say to Andy, one of them, come on, that sort of thing, because I mean I've got a little bit of pull. It's just usually it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so rolling back then, just cast your mind back. Can you remember the
Yeah, sure.
first models and or bits of terrain that you started doing in terms of Legion and or the first ones you said about the Ultramarines, but is there anything just what were the first few
Yes.
things that you sort of really remember doing and putting a lot
So
of effort into?
Legion stuff, the minis was a mix of Rebels and Empire, and I bought a bundle off eBay that had been like poorly painted. I stripped it all down because I had the time and just started again. It was a real cheap entry into the game. It had quite a lot of units, so it had like close to 800 points on each side. So I had full
Perfect.
armies. And then I think the first table that I did was like I was trying to do like the Endor stuff because I had a grass mat from when we played Lord of the Rings. So I lent into that basically. So I had the mat already, and then I just built like area terrain using twigs and stuff like that. And then I think another good like terrain tool these days is 3D printing. You can mix in a bit of 3D printing with your homemade stuff, and you can really create like a Star Wars environment or whatever environment you're looking for. Really, there's files for it all. But
And there are loads as well, loads. So if you have friends, I'm fortunate enough to have a few contacts who have 3D printers who've printed off some stuff. And you saw the buildings thing from when I was in Daventry the other week. Those buildings are really cool.
yeah,
There's another one that has just been finished printed, but it won't be ready for in time for MKGT. But apparently it's bigger than an ATSD, and I'm like, well, I'll do it
oh
for Hots.
wow, wow.
Yeah, so I look forward to seeing that. Whether I give it the paint job it deserves is another matter, but we'll see. um, on terrain and models when you're because I've said and I'm a big fan of if you can base a model, it takes away from a what might have been considered a lesser paint job, and it can make basing can make models pop. Is there a favorite what's the word I'm looking for? Climate is probably the climate. Yeah, climate or zone or whatever you want to call it for basing for yourself, like lava, heat, snow, grass.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
So I've just recently started experimenting with desert and like the cracking paste and stuff like that. So my IG models, my Dinjar in there on like a desert base with a skull and that looks really nice. But my go-to and what most of my stuff's on, it's just PVA with some bigger sized rocks and then some sand. Uh, the bigger sized rocks I do like a stone effect on, then the
Yep,
sand I do dark brown and then build the browns all the way up to like a bone highlight and then just some grass tufts and flowers and stuff like that just to change it up and add a bit of detail. That's what all my Rebels and Empire are. But I'm going to start painting shadow. So sorry, I'm going to do Shadow Collective on desert
yep,
because that's my newer stuff, and then all my droids and clones they're on like Geonosis, and that's like a red sand with like a lighty yellow brown dry brush and some dead grass on some of them.
that's
So
cool. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's cool. I'm a fan of it. All my rebels will be. I've resprayed all my rebels. Mine will be on green slash like Endor style.
yeah,
All my clones are on a snow, and then all my droids are on the red Geonosis style. But because I'm lazy, just like crack paint done. Thank you very much.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's me. Um, what have you done most? So you've said about what you're doing most recently in terms of your shadow collective on the deserts and stuff like that. Is
I
there
haven't
anything in?
started the Shadow
Oh,
Collective.
okay, cool.
They're in a box behind me, but that's like so. I'm moving into. I'm going to paint some more stuff for clones because I've got the majority of my clones done, but there's just some stuff to round out so I can like medics, just little things like that, so I can completely like full lists. So that's what I'm going to move into next. And the last thing I painted, I finished 2 units of Dark Troopers, and then I'm nearly finished on Ahsoka. She's on the paint table here.
Nice.
So
Can we
she's
get a
got.
sneak
I don't know
preview?
if you. I don't know. If, yeah, is that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
all right. I've still got some work on the face and the base to do, basically. So
How did you
faces and
find
bases.
how faces and bases? How did you find having recently done painted her, not done her, painted her to myself? How did you find painting her little uh alien dreads?
Yeah, it was all right. It was a challenge. It was a challenge. I had to go over it a couple of times. What I did was um it was white first, and then I watered down a blue wash, so it was very very thin, and just run that over it, so it sat in the recesses. so
Cool.
I could see where the blue had to go better. So when it was just zenithal highlighted, it was hard to see where the lines and the brush had to go. So I painted it white, and then I just put a blue wash over, and that really helped guide me through. Really.
Would you say that's a good piece of advice in terms of if you know a model has fine detail as Ahsoka does, as Maul does with the faces and all
Yeah.
that sort of stuff? Would you say that's a good suggestion in terms of getting a real thin paint just to see and to help you guide?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just get you
Awesome.
if you know it's white, you base like Ahsoka's base color, and then just water down a blue wash so it's nice and thin, so it's not gonna stain that white too much. And then you can just go back up, put the dark blues in, then just go back over with the white, and mine looks fine. You would never know it was done.
Good to know. See, I learn things from when I'm doing this. It's handy. It's not just for everyone else. It's for me as well.
Yeah.
So one day I'll be the greatest. No, I won't. What's been your favorite piece of terrain and or models that you've worked on? Or I tell you what, one from each.
Okay, so terrain wise, probably the Tatooine table. The finished piece is really nice. I like it. It's got some 3D bit printed buildings that I've weathered up and painted. It's really nice. And the cork bark added sand and all the tufts too. And on the table, they just complement each other really well. I like that table a lot. And then models, I've got two models that I really like. So one's my Cad Bane. I done a video for Cad Bane, a painting tutorial. Really took my time, wet blending with all the browns on the coat and stuff like that. And it turned out, and to be fair, that was painted a couple of years ago now. And I think I'm a better painter now, but at that time I looked at it and I was like, I think my painting took a step. It leveled up. There's models that you look at and you think, I'm getting better here. And that was nice when I looked at Cad at the end. And then I recently done a Vader, and it's a 3D printed Vader where he's all like damaged as if he's been burnt in the ashes. And there was a technique that I'd seen that I wanted to try where it looks like something's coming out of the dark into the light. So all the back on him is like blue and shadowy, and then the front it's lit from his lightsaber and the lava base that I put on. So it was like my first real go at like OSL and stuff like that, and having a mess with like object source lighting.
Thank you. I was about to say OSL for those who ain't got a clue. Object source lighting. So is that the concept of I've got a desk lamp here? This is why this side of my face is more shiny than the rest of this side. That sort of thing.
Exactly that, yeah.
Cool.
So he looks like he's stepping out of the shadows and that he's being lit by the lightsaber and the lava that's on the base in front of him, sort of thing. It's a difficult technique. It takes time. It takes like don't rush it. Add lots of thin layers rather than one thick, multiple thick layers, because that's how it gets too heavy. And in parts on it now, when I look at it, I can see where I've been too heavy, but I'm not going to go back and change it. I've left it. I'm happy with it as my first attempt. So,
is that which answers my next question is: have you dabbled in any airbrushing, or is it pure?
I haven't yet. No, I haven't.
When was it? Want to do?
Potentially, yeah. Moving forward, when I was at Daventry, I spoke to Tom, who was doing that thing. So he was telling me what airbrush he's got and set up and stuff, because he said it's quiet. Because where I am now, it's just a small little bedroom basically. So I couldn't get the hairbrush out if it was too loud at night. So yeah, it's too loud. So he was telling me about a quiet compressor and stuff like that. So it's something I want to get into, but I do like to paint with the brush. I am a brush guy, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, it does. No, it does. I wouldn't consider myself a painter, and it takes a lot of I have to be in the mood for painting.
Yeah,
I can't just go and just go. I have to. It's sort of like I can't force myself, but I have to be in the zone or to want to do it. But once you're sort of doing it and things like that, like when I did my Cody and finished off some strike teams, the arc strike team in the week. And it was like once I was in the mode, I was just like, yeah, this is fine. But what was quite cute is my wife was on the kitchen table next to me, and she was doing a puzzle. And she says I'm a geek, and she was doing a bloody puzzle. She likes to put them on a frame, and then they're going to be hung up. And soon, when I move house, like these things behind me, she painted herself.
Oh, cool.
So they're taken from pictures. Slight aside, they're taken from the interior of the Kelpies in Scotland near Falkirk. With the light coming in, and she's just painted them and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. Wow.
She's the artistic one, and yet she won't touch my model, so there we go.
Won't paint for you.
No. I've been floating the idea, this is an aside, but I've been floating the idea of That's No Moon Spouses Edition, of like, so there'd be Andy's other half, Ollie's other half, Tom's other half, and my other half, and then them for 10 minutes sitting there going, what do they do? Why do they roll this dice? And just visions of that. And I said that to her, and she went, no, I just can't do it. Not, I wouldn't know what to say. No, but there we go. So we were talking about your positives in terms of your favorites and your object light source and all this sort of stuff that you want your Vader. And you said about taking time to patience and layering and layering and layering. Is there any regret? So when I've asked people this before, they've said it's not really a regret. But is there a regret or something you go, bugger, I wish I'd done that differently? A learning moment, some might say, if you're in a school.
I've had a few, to be honest, as most people will have in the hobby. You're gonna make mistakes. Like years ago, one of the biggest mistakes I made, and I've moved away from it now, was spray varnish. I don't know if you've got any experience with spray varnish. Just I don't touch it anymore. I'd had some Khazad dwarfs from Lord of the Rings, all nicely done. Sprayed them with the spray varnish, and it just left them like cloudy. And it's like, if it can all be to do like temperature, humidity, stuff like that, how close you hold the can, but it's very prone to going wrong. And it ruined my miniatures basically. And then I've had a few other mistakes with rattle cans and priming and stuff like that. So for anyone listening that's like new and stuff like that, just like warm your cans, that sort of stuff. Make sure the weather temperatures and stuff are all right. But yeah, now I only use a brush varnish. You can buy Vallejo's brush on varnishes and stuff like that. And they, because the miniatures that I play with now are plastic, it's fine. They don't seem to ever chip and stuff. So yeah.
Was that something that? So I remember the old Lord, because I had Lord of the Rings stuff as well. Did you have the metal model?
Yeah, there was metal. So the metal models are way more prone to chipping than plastic models. So yeah, you used to have to varnish them, but like I didn't know about brush on varnish back then. Just I don't know, there wasn't the internet. So well, there was, but not in the detail and with the amount of content. Yeah, not with the content there is nowadays.
Jesus,
but,
yeah. I was about to say,
yeah.
Going back 20, 25 years and going, this thing called the internet, like dialing in.
Yeah. So, but then
outrage.
Definitely. Another regret recently that I'd done, and this was with my Star Wars stuff, magnetizing the bottom of the bases.
All right, okay.
Right. So I bought strong magnets. I can't remember what, I think they're like 52N. And then you use super glue. But now what's happening is when I'm taking them out of the case, the magnets are so strong, it's just disconnecting from the super glue. Yep. So I'm having to go back and like redo them and stuff. But then someone told me they used green stuff to attach their magnets to the bottom of their bases, and they haven't had any come off. So
that's interesting.
That's what I'm going to do.
I wondered if anyone puts them. So obviously I've seen the magnetic sheets that everyone sticks them to, but I wonder if you'd stick it on the, because obviously the bases have a internal ridge, if you will. I wonder if the magnet on the inside of the internal ridge would, without it being, that would lessen the force, but I don't know.
Yeah, so no, the magnet goes into the bottom of the base. So like if I use that as Ahsoka model, the magnet goes in there.
Okay,
then
so
the super glue is like more brittle. So then as you pull the miniature off, if the magnet's really strong, it's connected to the rubber steel, and it just breaks away from the super glue, because there's different ways of magnets. Some people have the magnetic strip and then they use washers and then they connect in. But the way I did it was magnet and then the rubber steel in like the plastic, really useful boxes. But yeah, it's not worked out great for me. Someone there also said you should use a weaker magnet basically, because you're only holding little plastic miniatures. But I just went for the strongest one I could find, thinking when I'm moving them around, I don't want them to move. But
no, that makes sense. No, the logic's there. Have you magnetized models in general for play? So I dabbled, and I'm like, well, it works, but I think I can do a better job after having learned it. But you can the arcs on the fly bases.
Yeah,
tiny magnet on there, and then a tiny magnet in the rocket tip. Just pop on there.
And clip them on.
Have you dabbled with that?
The only ones that I have is the Rebel land speeder.
Yep.
So you can, I put the magnets into the bottom of the crew that sit on it, and then drilled a magnet into the speeder and painted over it. So if for whatever I equip it with, it can look like it, because there's so many different attachments to the Rebel speeder.
So it's the AA5 gunner, the droid, and
So it can look like it should look, really.
I want visions of someone taking a Rebel land speeder and just like, you get the lashes that go over when you're like on your van or on a car or whatever, that
Yeah.
attach something like your skateboard or your surfboard or whatever. Just want someone to do that and put a gonk droid on the middle on the front and just lash.
Yeah.
That'd be quite funny.
Yeah. I bet someone has.
I would like to see it, if I'm honest. I've seen some of the stuff I have seen. I've seen from he who cannot be mentioned, Alfie's dad. He did his Rebel bus as a UPS van, which was pretty funny.
Oh, that's pretty
And I
cool.
remember seeing that, and I was like, "That's on point. I love that." So that was cool. But that's cool. So you've actually given a couple of tips. I'm actually going to ask you for a couple more. Any best bits of advice for those? And we've talked about leveling up. Anyone looking to level up, what would you say is your best bits of advice?
So painting wise, a wet palette, if you're not using a wet palette, which
Right.
I think most people would be nowadays, but I think
let's pretend. No, I was going to say,
Right.
let's pretend for a minute. Some people haven't, or have never used or don't know how to make one. Go, just say, because this is the first episode where a wet palette's been really mentioned. So go for it. Go. What's that?
So wet palette, it's basically a small tray that will hold a sponge or a cloth that's soaked in water. And then you have a parchment paper or baking paper that sits on top of that. And then you mix your paint on top. And it basically, the way the paper reacts with water, I don't know the exact science, but your paints don't dry out, basically. They maintain the water. It also helps thin the paint, because a lot of newer painters, you end up with your paints too thick and then your minis don't look good. But a wet palette will really help with two things, really: keeping your paints thin, and when you come to mix colors and like blends and stuff like that, a wet palette it's a game changer. You can either make your own. There's tons of videos on YouTube how to make your own, or people like Army Painter and stuff like that sell them, so you can just buy one if you want to just buy one.
Perfect. So yeah, wet palette painting is the first. So that's one bit of advice. And anything else we can get out? Yeah. Maybe what about a terrain tip if you're making terrain? Just because.
So terrain's a tough one. I think you've just got to have a go. You've got to have an idea. Have source material to look at. So like if you was picking a planet from Star Wars, then just find pictures like on Google, either of like environments that match it on like Earth, and then just look at it and be like, what would look wow there, sort of thing. And that's what I was doing. And then you got to just go around like your hardware store and just look at different materials, basically different courses of sand, if it's a sand planet, different styles of rock, like, and look at something and this, like, what would that work as? So like tree bark, for example, makes really good rocks, and it's a really good rock effect. That's just something like that, really. But it's difficult. You got to have a go. You got to look at your work set, and then, like you said at the start, ask yourself what works well there and what wouldn't I do again, and stuff like that, and just speak to people.
I mean, could they look at a YouTube channel by any chance?
Definitely. If you want to check out our YouTube channel, I've got some terrain videos on there. Unfortunately, I haven't done as many terrain videos recently as I would like, because we're doing battle reports and just like, life's busy. So it's hard to film the terrain videos, battle reports, and have a normal life on top as well, sort of thing. But yeah, check out. Sorry.
We'll swing back to the battle reports thing at the end, because we'll have that something interesting to add. Yeah. So check out your channel. Where can they find it?
So we're on YouTube, Crafty Terrain. We've got Instagram, we're on Facebook, but all our videos are on YouTube. So yeah, check us out if you want to subscribe. That would be great. We're heading up towards the 3,000 subscriber mark now. So yeah, help us out. Give us a like and a thumbs up and stuff.
We'll be sharing that later as well. But we have two and a half final questions for you.
Sure.
If you could paint anything from the Star Wars universe, because the Star Wars Legion universe is that Star Wars universe.
Okay.
What would it be and why?
Okay, so I'm going to tie it into the game. I would like Saw Gerrera and the Partisans. I think they're cool. I think they'd be great to paint. I think they'll look really good, but I think that would really help the rebels and that faction, and it would give them maybe a battle force that they need, with some really cool, like, terrorist sort of rules, like a bit more hardcore, something like that. Basically, I think that's what I'd like to see. Well, that's what I'd like
Pathfinders on steroids type of thing.
Yeah, help and plus, you could bring some stuff in that battle force to help Pathfinders out, because every Rebel player knows Pathfinders need some help.
Poor old pal. So Saw Gerrera and his pals. So obviously you're based in the West Mids, based in Birmingham.
Yeah,
Have you got any shout outs for local stores and or
yeah,
friends
sure.
or people you'd like to say thank you and or just say
Yeah, sure. So shout out my local game store, play out of Seven City Collectibles at Nottingham. Will runs all the events down there, so great store. There's more than welcoming to me, and we've got a great little community. To be fair, we've got there's like 16 players I think playing in a Legion league there right now, and that's going on. Yeah, and there's like 30 players in like the Facebook group for Legion. So if you want to play some Legion or any other games, get down to Seventh City Collectibles.
Cool. And obviously, we said yourself, Crafty Terrain on Facebook, YouTube, and everything else on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's pretty much it. And the last thing I was going to say is, now you do battle reports.
Sure.
We have battle reports. I feel like we should take each other on. Not necessarily me or you or whoever.
Yeah.
Have a little game, get a game at some point, and then we'll put it
Well,
out there. Yeah?
it's gonna happen. So I've been speaking with Tom about doing a little team up. If I'll come down, play a game at yours, and then someone from your team come up here, we'll play one. We'll get a little series going or something like that. Should be quite good because
might not be a short term thing. This might be over a long period of time. Given
definitely, definitely. Does this? I think we've looked at one date where we the dates lined up where we could both do filming. So we'll get one end of the series film there, and then we'll look at doing another date to get another. And if it ends up 1-1, we'll have to do the third. If not, if it's a 2-0, then it's a 2-0.
Feels like this might be like a Ryder Cup series of things like that. You and I as the captains are like, right, I pick Ollie to play versus.
Yeah, it could be pretty cool.
It'd be good fun. But no, Lee, thank you for your time. Thank you for talking to us. I look forward to seeing you at the weekend. Although if you're watching this later and afterwards, stuff's gone now. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. And to those of you who stumble on this on YouTube, you can click on the links below that Tom might stick on and listen to the descriptions to see some of our battle reports. You can also look Lee's battle reports on Crafty Terrain, of which he's done about 59 more. You can look on there, and if you can listen to the podcast and go onto RSS podcast, Spotify, all that, and type in That's No Moon, a Star Wars Legion podcast. You can find us on there. Give us a click, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Helps the YouTube stuff, and also give theirs one as well. So yeah, road to 3,000 for him. We're on road to like 200. Cool. All the best. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's no moon.